Hello, It Fights back here. I'm going to take a look at the state of lightning spells before all the buffs we are getting in 3.6. Almost everything spell related is getting buffed, so even if you have no intention of playing a lightning spell, I will at least show off the power of the Pledge of Hands unique. You can make any spell good with Pledge of Hands. After that, I will go over my League starter build and Arctic Breath Vortex Occultist, go over a beginner-friendly dual-wield block Frost Blades Gladiator, and lastly take a quick look at the Neuros harp unique bow which creates consecrated ground upon shattering an enemy. Let's get into it. This is a self-cast Arc Inquisitor that I made in the Delve League and was among the first 50 people to reach depth 600 using this build. I'm going to swap lots of different skills into this build and show what they can do in a T15 tower map. First, let me briefly run over the build. The main thing here is I'm using a Pledge of Hands, which socketed gems are supported by level 30 Spell Echo, so a 6-link Pledge of Hands will give you a 7-link. Another very important thing here is the 100% increased maximum mana. That is very valuable with high cast speed builds because you will use a lot of mana really quickly. The rest of the gear is life resists, life resists, life resists, life resists, life resists movement speed, life resists some damage, life mana, mana regen, and a little bit more damage. I have a Call of the Brotherhood, which converts 40% of my lightning damage into cold damage, so I can freeze and shatter enemies as well. I have an Abyssal Jewel in my belt here, 50 to max life, and I get a chance to gain Onslaught on Kill. I have Wrath, Clarity, and Herald of Thunder that I'm running, reserved on my mana. Here I have a Stone Golem linked with Fortify and Minion Life Support, Flame Dash linked with faster casting. I have a Vol Haste linked with increased duration. Also, I have a Mortal Call linked with cast when damage taken. In my chest armor, I have Orb of Storms linked with Curse on Hit, Warlord's Mark for some endurance charges. There's Power Charge on Crit for power charges, increased duration to boost the mana cost, and extend the length of the Arcane Surge as well. So I'll go over the gem links as we're running through the maps. Let's look at the build here. It is a stereotypical crit caster build. The only bit of lightning damage is here with the Lightning Walker and these nodes here. You can use this build for any life-based staff caster, given that you have these nodes. You can take these nodes out, you can take these nodes out, you can take these nodes out, and then run any spell you want as a crit caster build. But since I'm just doing lightning spells here, I have the lightning, and you get the crit multiplier here as well, and get a little bit of lightning damage here. That's the build. I do have 2 jewel sockets in here. This is a bunch of flat damage. And here is some cast speed, damage, and critical strike multiplier. I spec'd out of this jewel socket here so I could grab some AoE nodes for the other skills I'm going to be using here. So now let's jump into the maps. So here we have Arc linked with faster casting, added lightning damage, increased critical strikes, controlled destruction, innervate, and spell echo from the Pledge of Hands. Arc has had its mana cost at gem level 20 reduced from 26 to 23, which is a buff for this build. It now has a cast time of 0.7 seconds down from 0.8, which is also a buff for this build. However, the flat damage from the gem has been lowered at gem level 20 by about 13%. It also has an added damage effectiveness of 80% down from 90%, which will lower the amount of additional damage you actually receive from something like Abyss Jewels or the added lightning gem. The last thing is that the range at which Arc can chain has been lowered from 50 units to 25 units. That means you won't be able to destroy things an entire screen away from where you attacked anymore, but you still will be able to do a lot of damage with this skill. I do not believe this has killed Arc. I believe Arc is still going to be very strong going forward. Here we have Spark linked with greater multiple projectiles, faster casting, increased critical strikes, added lightning damage, controlled destruction, and spell echo from the Pledge of Hands. The mana cost for Spark has been lowered from 23 to 21 at gem level 20, which is a great thing for any cast build. Lower mana cost means you are not as tied into gearing for mana. The flat damage from the gym is unchanged at level 1, but at level 20 has been increased by about 20%. Spark got another buff this league. The hit list clears every 0.66 seconds down from 1 second. That means the projectile can hit the same monster more frequently, but I believe you would have to be using Pierce with Spark for that to be able to take place. There are lots of things you can do with Spark gym-wise. The new Unleash gym may prove very powerful with Spark. Unleash causes supported spells to gain up to 3 seals over time, and are unsealed when cast, causing their effects to reoccur for each seal lost. So, with Spell Echo, you are casting twice with each button press. So, with Unleash socketed in here, which I would absolutely replace Controlled Destruction with Unleash if I was playing this build in the next league. That would, if you have 3 seals, that would cause you to fire 8 groups of projectiles with a single button press. However, I believe Unleash will be much more beneficial for the next skill. So up next I did Ball Lightning. This here is Ball Lightning linked to greater multiple projectiles, slower projectiles, increased critical strikes, faster casting, and added lightning damage, along with Spell Echo from the Pledge of Hands. This skill, upon using it, is insanely powerful. When using Spell Echo, you can kind of stutter step as you're casting it, and you can stack multiple waves of the balls on top of each other as they're moving through enemies, and the amount of damage you get from that is ridiculous. So as far as the balance goes for Ball Lightning, the mana cost at gym level 1 is reduced by 1, at gym level 20 is reduced by 2, 25 from 27. That is huge for this skill because the mana cost for Ball Lightning is very, very high. The cast speed has been reduced to 0.75 seconds, down from 0.8, and the damage has been increased at gym level 1, and the top end has raised by 6 at gym level 20. Not much, but it now has an added damage effectiveness of 40%, up from 35%. So that means there's 14% more damage you receive from added damage effects. So that is huge for this skill, because any amount of flat lightning damage you're adding to the skill is now you're gonna actually receive 14% more of that, which is huge. So now let's go to the next one here, which is Ball Lightning linked with slower projectiles, increased critical strikes, faster casting, added lightning damage, increased aerial effect, along with Spell Echo. I actually had a much more fun during recording this playing Ball Lightning just standalone without the GMP. The area of effect you can get on it is insane, and I'm just imagining what is possible with this skill when it comes to the new Unleash support. From the initial announcement page on the website, the Unleash gym is showed in a screenshot using Ball Lightning. Now, if you add Spell Echo to this, that's 8 balls that you can potentially launch at once on top of each other, doing absolutely insane amounts of damage with Ball Lightning. I think Ball Lightning is going to be easily one of the most powerful spells that you can use this coming week. Next we have Shock Nova. Here Shock Nova is linked with Controlled Destruction, increased critical strikes, faster casting, added lightning damage, and increased area of effect. Now while I was playing through this, I felt more powerful while playing Shock Nova on this character than I did with any other skills that I tried out. Now that's where it starts to get insane. because Shock Nova at level 20 has had its mana cost reduced by 3 to 23 from 26. The cast time of Shock Nova is now 0.7 seconds, down from 0.75. The flat damage the gem gives you at level 20 has been increased by 35%. Which, just having tried this out, that damage is bonkers. And that's not it. It now has an added damage effectiveness of 120% up from 60%. So the amount of damage you'd be getting from jewels and the added lightning gem is double for Shock Nova. It already feels incredibly strong, but that's not it either, because there's now the new Intensify gem. Intensify causes supported skills to have increased area effect, and they deal increased area damage with quality. Supported skills deal 16% more area damage per intensity. I believe the way intensity works is the longer you're casting while remaining stationary, your area of effect will shrink, but your damage will increase. Now, I'm running Control Destruction on this setup. Control Destruction reduces my critical strike chance. I'm already using increased area effect. I could put Intensify in there as well, giving me larger area of effect. And then if I need to fight a boss, I can just stand still and hold it down. The area will shrink and give me more area damage per intensity. Shock Nova. Absolutely insane. Up next, I tried out Ethereal Knives, linked with physical to lightning, faster projectiles, increased critical strikes, faster casting, and added lightning damage along with Spell Echo. Now, there's lots of different things you can do with Ethereal Knives. You can run Hatred, you can use the added Fire gem, there's lots of gain physical as extra elemental mods you can get on things. That all would help Ethereal Knives. However, I wanted it to kind of run with the lightning theme, allowing my Call of the Brotherhood to work, allowing it to shatter enemies as well. Let's look at the patch notes here. Mana cost at gem level 20 was reduced from 23 to 20, so that is good. Now, the flat damage that it does has been increased at level 1, and at level 20 it has been increased by about 40%. And having ran it in this build, I don't know that I was using the optimal setup. It felt weak. It felt like it definitely could use the damage buff. I think that's about right. The added damage effectiveness is now 120%, up from 100%. So you get a bit more damage there as well. I think Ethereal Knives definitely needed this. It definitely felt weak while I was playing it. You need to spec into a lot of projectile speed in order to make it feel good. Also, it also feels bad to play without using Pierce. Trying to deal with these enemies cannot die totems, you have to directly hit it without using Pierce at all. So you can actually play a Deadeye using Ethereal Knives. Probably not the best example of it here, but with Spell Echo, that does just give you the extra bit of damage. For the next skill, Lightning Tendrils, I had to use a different staff. This staff has a level 18 power charge on critical strike, spell damage, lightning damage to spells, cast speed, crit multiplier, damage penetrates elemental resistances, and lightning damage leeches life. So it's a pretty good staff. However, I had to turn off my Herald of Thunder because it lowers my mana to 1477 from the 2455 that I get from the 100% increased mana on the Pledge of Hands. So that's pretty significant. Here's Lightning Tendrils. Here, Lightning Tendrils is linked with increased critical strikes, faster casting, added lightning damage, ice bite, increased AoE, and power charge on crit. The mana cost for Lightning Tendrils was reduced at level 20 from 7 down to 5. It's a channeled skill, so it winds up costing a decent amount of mana. The flat damage it does at level 20 has been increased about 30%. It now has a base radius of 24 up from 22, and it gains 7 radius by gem level 20 up from 6. So it has +3 to its base radius at gem level 20. Running here with increased AoE and a couple AoE nodes in the tree. The area effect feels pretty bad, but the damage is pretty nice. I tried to kill a boss or two with it, and that did not go well at all. It felt pretty bad in the boss encounters, but clearing maps, it feels fantastic. Then again, like, the staff is really strong, so I don't know how light tendrils would fare without some pretty fantastic gear, but here it went pretty well. Here is what some early leveling looks like with the Pledge of Hands. I was able to buy this Pledge of Hands on day 2 of the Betrayal League for 4 chaos, while I had just gotten this character to farming the Blood Aqueduct. This is only a 4-link Pledge of Hands, running with Arc, faster casting, added lightning damage, and increased critical strikes with the Inquisitor, and of course it has Spell Echo. But even this early on, having the Pledge of Hands is very, very strong. This character is only level 74 in this video clip and a tier 4 map. I wouldn't expect to be able to get a Pledge of Hands for as cheap as I was able to last league, seeing as how there's so much new stuff with regards to spells. But the shield charge meta is pretty strong coming into this league, so there might be a pretty good chance that people just blatantly disregard how strong Pledge of Hands is. I'm going to be starting this league off by leveling an Arctic Breath, Vortex, Cold Damage Over Time Occultist. There's a full build guide in the description down below for what this looks like at in-game. I wasn't able to get Terran Shiver because I leveled this in solo self-found to practice to level 85. Looking at the gear I was able to find, you're looking for spell damage, cold damage over time multiplier, and cast speed. Spell damage, I have crit chance here, which is helpful for elemental overload. Arctic Breath is linked with Bone Chill, lesser multiple projectiles, and increased critical strikes. Vortex linked with elemental focus, controlled destruction, hypothermia. I have Temp Chains and Enfeeble linked to Blasphemy. On maps that enemies cannot be slowed, I run Frostbite instead. I have Frostbomb linked with faster casting. I found a Vol Haste, which is nice. Flame Dash linked with faster casting, Arcane Surge, and increased duration. And then I have Clarity and a Summon Stone Golem. Here's all life resists. Pretty simple. Passive tree is shown in the build guide. The only thing I don't have at this point is jewel sockets. That's all I would be doing at this point. I'd probably, if I can't get jewels, I would spec into these nodes here, get some more life. So for the balance of this build, Arctic Breath mana cost was increased level 23 to 23 from 20. Cast time has also been lowered to 0.7 from 0.8, which is nice. Casting faster is always good, although the mana cost going higher is a slight nerf to the build, as you'll need to stack a little bit more mana, possibly. The damage of the initial hit for Arctic Breath has gone up, as well as the cold damage over time. Damage effectiveness went to 80 from 60%. So Arctic Breath might be more viable as a damage source upcoming, but I will probably still use it as more of a support to apply a Bone Chill and do my damage with Vortex and Cold Snap. Vortex damage was slightly lowered while leveling, and at level 20, having leveled with Vortex, it is really powerful against bosses, so I'm not too surprised by that. Cold Snap mana cost at level 20 was increased to 28 from 20, so that is much more costly for Cold Snap. Base damage at level 1 has gone up quite a bit, which is definitely warranted. Cold Snap early on is really bad. Damage at level 20 is pretty much unchanged. For this build, I'm probably going to look at using the new Bane skill gem, which applies all linked curses to enemies in an area, rather than running Blasphemy for Enfeeble. I will probably use Enfeeble and Frostbite with that for my 3 curses, so that I can use the new Malevolence aura in place of that mana reservation, which will give more damage over time, which will be pretty interesting. This is a dual wield block gladiator Frost Blades character that my brother leveled last league. I have a written leveling guide breaking out all the gem links and things you want to look for as you're leveling. That will be in the description down below. This is what the character looks like at the end game once you've fully fleshed it out. You're looking for physical attack damage on your swords, and you can get flat damage to cold on there as well. So you're not looking for the highest physical damage swords. The flat damage as cold will be pretty beneficial for this build as well. All the rest of the gear is just life and resists, and physical damage where you can fit it in. Rings, amulet, and gloves. Gem links are Frost Blades linked with cold penetration, elemental damage with attacks, multi-strike, elemental focus, and melee physical damage. For single target, you can use Vol Ancestral Warchief or Vol Double Strike. He chose to go for the Vol Double Strike. Having Ancestral Warchief is also valuable for single target as well. You can throw that down for a damage boost whenever. You are not as tied to movement speed on your boots because you're most likely going to be leap slamming or whirling bladesing around based on what you prefer. For flasks, Taste of Hate, when you can afford one, adds a lot of damage. The Wise Oak, if you can make sure your uncapped cold res is the highest, will give you some more penetration. Onslaught Flask will give you some more attack speed as well. For the passive tree, when you start leveling, you're going to want to work down through the attack speed here, down through the dual wield nodes. You'll need to figure out some mana sustain pretty early on, so you can get mana flows here before you're able to get to this mana leech node here. You'll want to work your way down through the life up over here and get to Winter Spirit so you can get full conversion to cold, as this build does only cold damage. At that point, you can spec into Fangs of Frost, which will give you cold penetration, and Primeval Force here for more penetration. You can get some more damage here if you need it at the time, and you're gonna scale all your damage through physical damage. By the time you're getting to Act 5, you'll be able to get a Fight for Survival jewel from a quest reward, which will give you 15% additional cold resistance penetration. And at that point, you can probably buy another one off somebody for 1 chaos, because not many people will be looking for these early on in a league. You can get 2 of those here. Before you start speccing into the block nodes, you'll want to work your way up towards Resolute Technique here, so you don't have to worry about your accuracy anymore. And then as you're mapping, you can push up to the Scion Life Wheel. There's a bunch more damage you can get right here. Looking at the Ascendancy choices here, you'd start off with Outmatch, Outlast, then Painforged, which will give you an 8% chance to block if you were damaged by a hit recently. And Versatile Combat will give you spell block equal to your attack block. And then eventually Violent Retaliation, which will give you increased physical damage each time you blocked in the past 10 seconds. 80% increased physical damage if that was from a unique enemy. And then you will also gain 1% chance to block for each time you've blocked in the past 10 seconds. So that can stack really high. Just standalone right now, this character has 38% chance to block, attack, and spell damage. This character is very difficult to kill. You rarely will get hit, and when you do, you'll instantly hit back. Do those notes here. You will slowly just be able to scale this character as you're able to get better physical swords. I'll show you what it looks like in mapping at the end game. The only change to this build as far as the 3.6 patch is concerned is a change to the Hatred Aura. Hatred Aura originally gave you 36% of your physical damage as extra cold damage at level 20. Now that is only 25. However, you will gain 18% more cold damage at level 20 as well. I believe this is actually a buff for this character for the Hatred Aura. A lot of people are concerned about the change to the Hatred Aura, but I believe for a full cold conversion character like this one, I believe it'll be a very strong buff for this character as well. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is the Neuros harp bow. It is a Harbinger bow that does only flat cold damage. It does not do any physical damage. However, it will create consecrated ground when you shatter an enemy. With the new changes to consecrated ground, giving you an additional 100% chance to crit enemies who are standing in consecrated ground, I think this build could have some really nice play with the consecrated ground changes. However, I believe playing a bow character this league will be a little bit more difficult than in the past leagues, as we are not able to get Abyss on our map device. So getting Abyssal Jewels to really help scale the damage of bow characters is going to be much harder and much more expensive this league. I leveled this character just to kind of test out how Neuros harp works, and honestly I wasn't that impressed with the damage, but I believe that there will be some fun interplay with the new consecrated ground changes. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So that'll do it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below, and subscribe for more Path of Exile content. Thanks for watching.